With that story, construction mafias are seemingly running rampant in South Africa, despite companies filing more than 51 court interdicts against extortion groups. It has not deterred the criminals. In fact, construction companies are being pressured to give in to the demands of criminals, potentially losing millions. So what can be done to stop construction mafias? Construction Education and Training Authority chairperson Thabo Masombuka has written about this. He speaks to us live right now. A warm welcome to you, Thabo. Let's start right there. The big question at the moment is there anything that can be done? If yes, what?
Good afternoon, William. Thank you very much to you and your viewers at home. Like the commentator has said, the difficulty with government's ineptitudeness in responding to this is that not only has government been paralyzed, but it has been infiltrated from both within and outside.
Sure.
Infiltrated by criminal syndicates who sought to weaken the government's ability to decisively respond to crime in general. Because you see, the construction mafiaism or whatever form of criminality should be located within the context of a broader ineptitudeness, broader impunity that happens in South Africa, where criminals can simply walk into your house and take your belongings, where criminals can simply walk in a mall and dispossess people of their possession, where criminals can simply murder you at daylight. We have reached that state in this country where criminals have reigned over civil order. So what needs to be done? The president of the Black Business Council spoke to you yesterday.
Yes.
And what he said is that the president, during his SONA, made provision and announcement for a specialized unit within the South African police that is going to be men dedicated to deal with this thing. And we have not seen any results. I mean, the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure just spoke in a clip that there's been a number of criminal cases opened. It is not about the number of cases that are open that matters, but the extent to which criminal convictions are pursued.
Okay.
So that justice is not just seen, but it's seen to be done. Because if you look at the business of construction sector, for instance, we're in the business of training. We are in the business of ensuring that young kids in this country are enabled with the proper skills, construction profession skills that are going to enable them to participate in the South African economy. But how do they participate in this construction value chain when, in fact, construction sites are disrupted day in, day out? So we need some robust decisiveness, but we need some political buy-in, but we need some multi-stakeholder buy-in to ensure that not only is this thing kept, but it's eradicated to its finality, because it's quite frankly very, very, very disruptive to the economy and disruptive to development.
And Thabo, I imagine during your research, when you were putting your book together, you found that the conversation is so layered, it cannot be just the one department speaking about this or the one office looking at things broadly. You almost want to bring in all the stakeholders. What did you find is the missing piece, if you were, to really complete this puzzle so that we can move forward? I mean, the numbers that the minister was speaking about, we cannot ignore them.
Yeah.
They're not insignificant.
Correct.
Right? What have you found?
Look,
in your
believe
research?
it or not, you'll be surprised that at the core of all this is the lack of transformation of the economy of South Africa. The extent to which people have been excluded in the economic value chain has resulted, because some of these things have started genuinely as business forums that quite frankly question legitimately the levels of exclusions, the patterns of exclusions. They said that you cannot come from outside being a business investor or developer without taking into account the economic consideration of these local economic development patterns. And they've correctly asked those questions. But then as time went on, then the element of criminality started to factor in because people started to realize that, oh, we can push back here. We can actually do this. We can actually threaten with violence, as you have seen in transport and road freight, as you have seen in the mining sector, in the housing, human settlement development. So the moment they realized that the police are fast asleep, law enforcement is glaringly absent, then what actually emerged or initially started as a genuine economic transformation demand started to evolve into something else. So, differently put, there still remain a fundamental, important need for the South African economy to be diversified, for communities to be included in the value chain, for jobs to be created. I'm not talking just piece jobs. We're talking sustainable skills jobs so that people can then be able to evolve and become the bosses or the the business owners in themselves.
Like a forward-thinking, long-term solution.
Like a forward-thinking, long-term, sustainable solution.
Right.
So you will be surprised that at the core of all this has been the absence of that. Now, as the construction sector and many other sectors in the sector landscape, the Minister of Higher Education and Training had actually implored on us to think beyond just provision of skills and building the skills pipeline, but to foster collaboration, moving towards digitalization, moving towards the green economy, automated intelligence, the 4IR industrial revolution, so that young people in South Africa can be equipped with the skills. For an example, there's a war in Ukraine right now. Russia is invading Ukraine.
Yes.
But at some point, that war is going to cease. The war in Sudan, the war in Israel, those communities will need to be rebuilt. South Africa needs to contribute in the rebuilding of those societies. But how are we going to do that if we do not have the requisite skills, the equipment, the ability to be able to contribute into the global economic transformation? But it starts from home. We need then to be able to build the capacity in South Africa through the requisite skills, the correct skills, and be able to equip young people to participate in the economy of this country meaningfully.
And before we run out of time, Thabo, I need to pose this question to you then. We were speaking to the Business Council, the Black Business Council president yesterday, and he was alluding to the fact that there are some loopholes within the procurement bill in itself. If you are expecting or wanting the community to get involved by getting a share of 30% of whatever tender is awarded to whichever consortium, even that equation needs to be it needs to be balanced.
That equation definitely needs to be balanced. You're correct. We shared a similar sentiments with the Black Business Council in the Built Environment that the public procurement bill in its current form is an attempt to try to change the face of public procurement in infrastructure, but it's not sufficient. We need to dig more and ensure that, as alluded to by the Constitutional Court judgment, the majority judgment last year, that actually fostered the review of the public sector preferential procurement regulations. We need to do more than that. We need to ensure that we capacitate various public sector bodies and clients to be able to drive transformation, particularly infrastructure, to make sure that building any form of infrastructure in this country make it a point that transformation and economic inclusion of those communities become non-negotiable. I can tell you now, once you do that, you are going to systematically eliminate the need for violence, the need for this implosion, the need for this invasion of sites. But people are going to feel part and parcel of the procurement that's transformed, the procurement that actually take into account their economic needs. That is the direction that this country needs to take.
Of course, if they are included, it also takes them away from thinking about things to disrupt the status quo, as it were. Thabo, thank you so much for your time. Yes. That was Thabo Masombuka, who is the chairperson of the Construction, Education and Training Authority, joining us live right now. That's part of our focus conversation that we've been focusing on here on today on eNCA. We'll speak to Danon's Leanne.